Hi everyone. Well, multiple people in the last 24 hours have been in touch to say that they've heard that Hurricane Debby is heading for the UK. Now, that is a good point that was made there, and we've had a few interesting questions on this. So I will try to explain the best I can here on the whole scenario and show you the outcome of a couple of the different models of the likelihood of what they're showing with the positioning of the hurricane in about 10 to 14 days, which is quite a long way out as well. So a lot could potentially change between now and then. But I'll show you what is showing at the moment. Well, this is the hurricane up close at the moment, or 10 a.m. And you can see this is the rainfall map, the same ones that we use for the standard forecast that we have in the UK here, but we're using the NAM model for this. So we don't have access to this one for the UK. It's only across the southeastern part of the US, this high resolution one. So you can see here that we run through, and you can see that the rainfall is very, very, very heavy. It's maxing out on our scale, and this scale is only really made for Europe and Western UK and that. So you can see it really is reaching the highest point of the rainfall of what we've got on here. And the other interesting thing, or at least interesting for those who aren't affected directly by it, is the strength of the winds. So we're at a Category 1 hurricane. We're in and around the 80 mile per hour mark, roughly around that area anyway. So it's not a very strong hurricane, but you can see it here. You can see the stronger winds, which matches up with our scale here. But you can also then see, as it moves inland, it starts to weaken. We've got these gusts possibly pushing up to 70 mile an hour, but it's not sustained at this point. So it becomes what would be classed as a tropical storm with winds under 74 miles per hour. So between 39 and 74 miles per hour is classed as a tropical storm. Now, what you can see here is that by Wednesday it's still hanging around, and then to Thursday it starts to try and move a little bit more inland, which as it does so, it will likely weaken further. So let's watch this on a slightly broader scale here, with a much more map that you can see here. You can see a lot of the Atlantic across here and the UK up here, and we'll show you how this is likely to evolve over the coming days, or even next week or so. Now, it's very difficult to predict hurricane tracks, but we're using the GFS model on this one, and you can see here that it seems to fizzle out. So you can see down here, just down towards Florida, and it's starting to look a little bit weak. So it'll probably reach below tropical storm status and actually become what would be classed as a tropical depression. And then as we move through, we can see it's starting to move up the east coast of the US. So we've still got some of the tropical air associated with it, but you've noticed it's lost its little round shape that you get with tropical storms and hurricanes, and it's starting to take a more elongated shape, and that's a sign of things to come, a sign that it is changing. So at this point, it can no longer class it even as a tropical storm or a depression, because it's well outside of the tropical or even subtropical regions. And you notice it's taken on a very funny shape, and it's starting to strengthen again. Now, this is because it's interacting with colder air coming down from the north up here in more temperate regions, and it's still got its tropical air associated with it in the south here. So now we've overlaid the temperature map, and you can actually see the warmth associated with it. It's lost its heat that it would have had down here, and then as it moves northeast, you can see this defined little V shape here, which is actually a warm sector. So it's lost all its tropical characteristics now. There's nothing left really. And instead we've got quite noticeable little warm sectors. So there'd be a warm front moving up this way here. Perhaps other little, almost like little warm fronts moving in behind it, with the likelihood of much colder air moving in down this way. And this here would probably be another weak cold front moving through as well. So the air, instead of it being quite uniform that you see in a hurricane, it's broken up into little sectors of warm and cold air, with cold in the north here, much warmer pushing up in the south. And you can also now see that as it moves up in towards the North Atlantic here, or Northwest Atlantic, the wind strength starts to pick up once again. But now at this point it's called an extratropical cyclone, which is pretty much just what all our low pressure areas are. And you know, it's lost all its tropical characteristics, but we're looking now, I mean, this is coming out to almost heading out to coming up for 2 weeks out really. So you can see it up here, and this is what's left of it. And this is actually something else altogether. This is a little secondary area of low pressure moving in, where a little incursion of warm air moves up within the low pressure, and then it triggers a little formation of a second area of low pressure. So you can see that all this system, it actually doesn't really affect the UK much. We see perhaps residual hints of something out towards 2 weeks' time, but I mean, it lost its tropical characteristics way out here, over 1,000 miles away. So yeah, it's really nothing to be concerned about. But what we will do quickly is have a quick look at a couple of the other models and its look on this, and its thought on how it's looking. And you can see a bit of a difference there. So we're using the German model here. It doesn't go out quite as far at this point. Yeah, it doesn't go out quite as far, but it will give a bit of an idea of what's going to happen. So it does much the same with this little area of low pressure, or should I say the hurricane, as it turns into an area of low pressure, but it develops a little bit stronger before it moves over land. But it does much the same thing, moves up the east coast of the US, which is quite a common thing with these systems. And you can see, instead of being rounded, it becomes elongated with these little sharp points again, which shows where the warm and colder sectors are. The warmer sectors often towards the south and east, and the colder sectors towards the north and the western side of these systems. And so this one will only go out for 1 more day, but you can actually see a bit of difference, that the energy from the system's a little bit stronger. And this one is actually heading almost directly towards us. So if this went out a few more frames, it would probably hit the UK. Again, will have lost all its tropical characteristics, but potentially could be quite a strong low pressure system. So that's something worth watching. And finally, we'll have a quick look at the European model. And I'm afraid we can't actually see the strongest winds on this, so we have to look at the average wind speed. But it still gives us an idea of what it's going to do. So it becomes a little bit stronger for a time before it moves inland, and then does the same thing. As you can see, it moving up the east coast of the US. It's still quite a rounded little system at this point, so it's quite potent compared to the other 2 models. Now this will have impacts down the line. So as you can see, what happens here, because it's quite a strong little system even at this point, it then develops into the warmer and cold sectors a little bit later. Because that happens slightly later, because there's a little bit of a delay there, the way it moves across the Atlantic is a little bit different. It potentially could move quite fast, and then maybe hitting northern parts of the UK, with southern parts more than likely going under this area of high pressure here. So yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one, different outcomes with different models, and it's very uncertain at the moment, but the most likely scenario, it would seem that it will, remnants could hit the northern parts of the UK. Down south here, it seems likely that high pressure will probably just about nudge in enough for us just to have another breezy day, and probably fairly warm, any sunny spells. You know, that type of condition once it reaches this far northeast. So anyway, a bit of rambling there. I hope some of that made sense. I hope all of it made sense. Any questions, obviously, please feel free to ask. And that's it, really, I suppose. I don't think there's much else to cover on this. But, of course, we will let you know more if anything changes. And, of course, we'll follow it as the time gets a bit closer. But it is still quite some way off at the moment. So, not really worth looking into that much at the moment. So, goodbye for now.